Hello and welcome to our TRACMASTER YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about our remote control mowers, and I'm going to be asking John to explain how they work, how the best you can use them to get the most out of them, and all the features that you're going to need. So I love using these remote mowers, but often I call them robotic mowers, and I think it's probably a good place to start is if you just explain why I'm wrong in calling them robotic mowers and why remote mowers is the correct terminology.
Right, yeah, so they are remote control mowers, and the reason for that is the operator is controlling the mowers with this remote control. So they are operating it and determining the forward speed, they're moving it side to side, they're controlling the cutting height.
Everything's done on that, is it?
Exactly, yeah, everything is done with the remote control. So with a robotic mower, you're inputting instructions to the robot mower, and
sometimes with an app or something like that.
Exactly, yeah, or with, and they could be controlled with using GPS, or you could have wires around your lawn to stop it from going out too far, but the robot is then determining cutting itself, essentially.
It's autonomous.
Exactly. So with these remote control, the operator's in control at all times.
Fine. And the key feature about these particular models is they're hybrid as well. So that's probably worth speaking about, because you're probably familiar with traditional engine power ones, or now you get battery ones, but these are actually hybrid, so it's slightly different again. If you don't mind just sort of explaining what a hybrid version is.
Yeah, exactly. So on both these mowers, you have a petrol engine which is operating the blade. So the power of the engine is rotating the blade, and that's your cutting. You then have electric motors powering the tracks. And what's happening with these mowers is, with the rotation of the blade, you are continuously recharging the batteries. So you don't have to worry about the batteries running out of power to control the tracks. As long as you have petrol in the tank, they're continuously recharging your batteries and you can run.
So like range anxiety isn't a thing?
No, as long as you've got fuel, you can run all day.
Perfect. Okay, we have two models here. This is the FM 2353.
That's one.
And that is the FM 2470.
Yeah.
Obviously, size is an obvious difference.
Yeah.
But apart from size, I presume the size also relates to the cutting width.
Yeah.
What are the major differences between the two?
So the main difference is the bigger model here has a Banks engine. So you have oil and fuel pump in there, so the engine can cope with steeper slopes without having any issues with the engine. This one is just a standard engine, so it's not got an oil or fuel pump. And that feature is one of the determining features on how steep you can run the mower.
So the obvious question is, what is the maximum steepness that you can cut on this particular mower?
So on this model, it'll go up to 35 degrees, and there's actually an auto cutout feature. So if you go too steep, if you go up to 45 degrees, for instance, the engine will automatically cut out. You can still control the mower because the electric tracks will still work, but the engine will stop, and that's a safety feature, so that the blade, if you go too steep, the blade will stop from operating.
And actually that's a safety feature of both of them, isn't it? There's
Exactly.
cutouts at certain points, so were they to have a tip or roll over, then it all stops as well there, does it?
Exactly that, yeah.
So you can never be sat with it upside down when it's blowing. Okay.
And on this model, the maximum slope is 25 degrees, so you wouldn't want to go any steeper on this one. And that's down to the engine and also the track width. So the wider track on this allows it to have more stability on the slope as well.
Okay, so what I really want to talk about is what can you cut? Because that's what people want to know. Obviously grass, brambles, bracken, is there anything they shouldn't go near? What can they really get stuck into?
So in our experience, if it can push it over, it will cut it. And bramble heights, for example, you're cutting almost to shoulder height. So if it can get into the blade, it'll cut it. So you're cutting inch-thick saplings down, no problems. Grass, pretty much any height, and then woody material, as I say, up to about shoulder height.
And I've noticed it uses its weight as well to assist with that. So
exactly.
Because how much does it weigh?
So this model is 260 kilos, and this is 160 kilos. So this model, because it's heavier, will also be able to push over taller material. So it will physically be able to cut taller material than this one.
Okay, so what sort of people should be looking at getting this sort of tool? Because it's obviously quite varied in what it can cut.
Yeah.
And it can demolish quite serious amounts of vegetation. So, you know, I suppose presumably it's got quite a wide customer base.
Exactly, it's one of the things I like about the machine, or love about the machine. We sold them to rental companies, hire companies, so hiring them out to landscapers. We sold them to landscapers who have got banks to deal with. We sold them to councils. Private individuals as well who've got large areas on their land to cut from steep slopes so they don't want to walk on. So one of the main benefits of this is it will run on a 35-degree slope. And these days you don't really want your operators strimming on a 35-degree slope. It's not that safe. Whereas this model is a lot safer than having a man or a woman walk on the slope.
Golf clubs?
Exactly that, yeah, golf clubs for in and around some of their rough areas where they may not cut all the time, they get bramble growth coming in, perfect for clearing that back.
And any facility management sites, I presume, like airports or...
Exactly that, yeah, so we have sold a few to some large estates, so offices where they need to cut around and keep the areas clean. Quite often they'll have slopes around them, so small bunds.
Landscape banks. And...
Exactly that, so landscapes, banks. And again, it comes down to safety. This is a lot safer to use than someone walking on those slopes.
Okay. So we've talked about the applications and where you can use them. We're going to focus now on some of the features and how to actually operate the machine. We've both got a remote control in our hand. Also, I've got a slightly smaller one to the larger machine. Why don't we first just explain how to turn them on and connect the remotes to the actual mowers themselves, because that's pretty straightforward. If you just want to talk me through this one.
Right, so on the mower and on the controller, you have a stop switch. So you just raise the stop switch on both of them, and then you have a power button.
Okay, and
press the power button.
Okay, and
then we're good to go.
Easy as that to connect it. Now you can move it around. Same with that one.
Exactly the same. So, well, sorry, slightly different. You have a switch on here, and then with this mower, you have a slightly different power button.
Okay, I can see the light come on that one.
Pop it on, and then away we go.
Okay, so before we start the actual engine themselves, height control. If you want to explain on that one, how easy it is to control the height.
Sure, so you have a button on here. You push it down and up.
Okay, yeah, I can see the deck.
And that'll lower it all the way down to 30 mil at its lowest cut, up to 140 mil at its highest cut, so a nice range of cut.
Okay, and on this one, what would that range be?
It's exactly the same.
Fine. So you don't necessarily have to cut super low, you can actually go above anything that's a little bit
exactly
unknown.
Exactly that. So if you're cutting an area for the first time, you're unsure what's there, my advice is set it up to your highest height, go in, cut it down. It gives you a better opportunity not to damage the blades and cause any damage.
And in terms of working speeds, what's the difference between this one and the larger FM2470?
So they're both 4 kilometers an hour on the working speeds, but really, if you're going through thicker material, taller material, this will be able to cope with it a little bit easier, so it'll be able to go faster. So the actual working speed is going to come down to the application. If you're going through very tall brambles, you'll want to go through slower. If you're going through short grass, you'll be able to go at full speed.
So, and that's all an example, I suppose, of the wheels and tracks being electrically driven and the height being electrically driven.
Yep.
And that's totally independent of the engine itself. So you can obviously move it around. And then when you take it to where you want to go, that's when you start thinking about starting the engine. Exactly
that, yes. So you can get it out of your van or get it out of your shed, wherever you've got it stored, and you drive it to your point of work, and then you start the engine.
Okay, so maybe if you start on your one to begin with, what's the process for starting the engine?
Sure thing. So you just want to up the throttle, and that engages the choke, and then you have a button here to do that.
Yep, I can hear the actuator moving, so that's moving the choke in.
So you raise that all the way up, and then you have a button just to start the engine. So if we press start,
stop that for a second.
And then you just have an off switch to turn it off.
So that was, you could push that on the side to stop it, but you could also push one of the buttons in the middle.
There's also an emergency stop, so if you press that down, that would stop it.
Okay, and it's a similar procedure here. So we would start it from this position, or from however many meters away. You could start it from
exactly
200 meters, but
yeah,
it will start equally, and then you can adjust the height from anywhere there as well.
Exactly that.
Okay. What other features do you have on that particular control that maybe you don't have on the smaller one?
Sure, so what they've done with this controller is they've taken some of the controls that were within the menu on this controller and just given you an extra button for it. So you have your speed control, you have your height adjustment, which is done with a separate button, and then your engine throttle lower and high is done with a separate button on here as well.
Great, so what have I missed? I suppose you've got emergency stops there if you need it to. This one, you can actually adjust the tracks when you're on a slope, is that right?
Exactly, yeah. So you can put more power to one side than the other. So if you're continuously cutting along a long slope and you want to give a little bit more power to one of the tracks so you're staying straight, you can do that on this model with this control.
And obviously the favourite feature is you have lights on the front for cutting in the dark.
Exactly that. So you then just pop that on if the controller was on.
Fine, yep, they're coming on.
There we are now.
Okay, thanks very much. So we've taken them both mowers over to where we want to work. We've had a look at the area. We're happy that we're going to cut it successfully. What is the best way of tackling quite a steep slope?
So my advice, where you can, is to go diagonally up to the top of the slope and then start from the top of the slope. You would then work your way across the slope, never up or down it. Maximum stability is always across the slope. And then the way I like to cut it is you can cut equally well forwards and backwards. So there's no need to turn on the slope. So you start at the top, you'd work your way along, and then you'd come backwards on your next level down.
So that's a nice feature, you're sort of falling like a leaf
Exactly.
across the slope.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's the things not to do?
So not to do is on a very steep slope is to suddenly go very fast up the slope because you're more likely to tip the machine. As I say, always safest to go across the slope as you can.
And presumably it goes without saying that before you even start working, you're clearing everybody out of the way.
Exactly that.
Letting know if you have to cordon off any areas and checking there's no obstacles in the way. And what would be sort of the worst thing that you would not want to be able to mow over?
So you wouldn't want to mow over where there's a lot of large rocks underneath. So again, that's why we say earlier to, if it's unknown terrain, always cut on the highest height. Anything where debris can fly out, ideally you don't want to be cutting those areas, or you certainly don't want to have anyone close to the machine.
It has the chains to help catch anything, doesn't it? But
Exactly.
when it's very up high, that's when there's most risk of anything.
Exactly.
Much like any mower.
And you also have some inbuilt protection of the blades because they're free swinging blades. So if you hit anything too hard, they will bounce back and you're not going to damage the whole rotor.
Right, and then I presume you can replace those
Exactly that.
as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Fine. One thing I always find with these is it's quite easy to treat them as a toy sometimes.
Yeah.
In terms of training of the operators,
Yeah.
how crucial is that into what you should be thinking about when using them?
It really is. With any kind of machinery like this, best practices should always be observed. And you don't want people just without any experience of using machinery just to go out and cut areas. You always want to give some training. It is a nice and easy machine to use from that point of view, but there are best practices then when using it for safe operation. So little things like if you're cutting on a slope, you don't want to be underneath the machine, you don't want to be standing at the bottom of the slope directly below it. So if something does happen, if it does roll for any reason, you're not underneath it. Lots of little practice like that you should always observe.
So a good risk assessment before every job.
Exactly.
Fine. And the final important bit is transportation.
Yep.
Are there any tricks or ways of putting it into the back of a vehicle, or what type of vehicles are safe to put it on that you think people should be aware about?
So we transport ours in a crafter style van, Mercedes Sprinter style van. We have ramps in there. Our ramps are actually built into the back of the van so they can never kick out. If you are going to run it up with individual ramps, strap them to or tie them to the van where you can so they can't kick out and the machine can't then drop. You always want to, where possible, use ramps that are
and
installed.
avoid making turns on ramps.
Exactly that, because if they...
Smooth drive up and down.
Exactly, yeah.
Fine. And I've seen you get these into the back of a gator, a
Yep.
John Deere gator, is that right?
Exactly, they'll fit very neatly into the back of a John Deere gator. So if you have got those on site and you need to transport it across the site, then you can pop it in one of those.
And is there a parking brake, or how should you transport it just to make sure it's safe?
So you do have strapping points, so around the back of the machine or through here. So if you park it in your van, ideally park it against the bulkhead and then strap it so it can't move backwards or forwards.
Brilliant. Well, I think that's all from me at the moment. I don't have any more questions, but if you do have any more questions, then please put them below and we'll try and get back to you. So we thank you very much for watching another YouTube channel by TRACMASTER, and we'll hopefully be producing many more over the next few weeks. Thank you. Goodbye.